The swamp is a realm of shadows and whispers, a place where the air is thick with humidity, the water hides unseen depths, and the darkness stretches beyond the reach of the lantern's glow. It's a landscape that resists human intrusion, where the wild reigns supreme and civilization seems a distant memory. But what if I told you that deep within this enigmatic swamp, something defies explanation, something that challenges every certainty you have about the world? Tonight, on Remote Cabin Radio, we journey back to the year 1884, to the heart of Jackson County, Florida, where a community on the edge of the unknown faced a terror that would haunt them for generations. They called him the Wild Man of Ocheesee Pond, a creature draped in hair, more beast than man, whose cries echoed through the night and whose presence sent shivers down the spines of all who lived nearby. This is not just a tale of folklore or legend, it's a true account, documented in the newspapers of the time, of a creature captured by men who had seen the horrors of war but were nonetheless unprepared for what they would face in the swamps of Florida. The details are scarce, the mystery profound, and the truth remains buried in the murky waters of Ocheesee Pond. So settle in, turn down the lights, and let the shadows creep a little closer as we delve into the chilling story of the Wild Man of Ocheesee Pond. This is Remote Cabin Radio, where the mysteries of the past come alive and the unknown waits to be discovered. The thick cypress forests of Ocheesee Pond, nestled deep within the swamps of Jackson County, Florida, have long harbored secrets that few dare to whisper about. As the mist rises from the dark waters and the haunting calls of unseen creatures echo through the trees, the atmosphere seems almost designed to hide something or someone lurking just beyond the reach of human understanding. The year was 1884, a time when the whispers of strange occurrences in the wilds of Florida were often dismissed as mere superstition or tales told to frighten children. But as the summer heat bore down on the swampy basin of Ocheesee Pond, a chilling reality began to emerge, one that would shake the local community to its core. Reports of strange, hair-covered beings wandering the dense swamps of Jackson County were not uncommon in the 19th century. Native American tribes in the region had long spoken of a man-like creature that roamed the deepest, most isolated parts of the swamp, a being shrouded in mystery and fear. The settlers, having heard these tales, often dismissed them as folklore until the sightings began. The creature, referred to by some as the Wild Man of the Woods, became a terrifying reality for the people living near Ocheesee Pond. Covered in hair from head to toe, towering over any normal man, this wild man was a sight to behold and a terror to encounter. His cries pierced the stillness of the night, unsettling even the most hardened of souls. Farmers and families living along the pond's shores grew increasingly anxious as sightings of the Wild Man became more frequent. They spoke of a creature who seemed to thrive in the inhospitable conditions of the swamp, moving silently through the water and foraging on whatever the wild offered. By the summer of 1884, the tension had reached a breaking point. The local community, many of whom were veterans of the Confederate Army and had seen more than their fair share of horror, decided to take action. They were not dealing with a ghost story, but a flesh and blood being that seemed to defy all understanding of humanity. Armed with rifles and a deep knowledge of the land, they devised a plan to corner the creature. They would close in on him from multiple directions, converging on the last known location deep within the swamp. On a hot August day, the men set out, their resolve hardened by the fear that had gripped their community. The dense canopy of trees blocked out the sun, casting eerie shadows across the swamp as they moved deeper into the wilderness. The air was thick with the scent of decaying vegetation, and the only sounds were the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant croaking of frogs. The wild man was out there somewhere, and the hunters could feel his presence like a weight pressing down on their chests. It did not take long for them to find him, or rather, he found them. Emerging from the murky waters of the pond, the wild man moved with a speed and agility that belied his size. He was naked, his body emaciated and covered in a thick layer of hair that clung to his skin like a cloak. His eyes, wild and unfocused, darted around as if searching for an escape. But the men had him surrounded. The report on what happened next is frustratingly vague. It mentions the capture, but is notably silent on how exactly the wild man was subdued. Given the creature's strength, desperation, and feral nature, one can infer that the struggle was anything but easy. The men who undertook this task were no strangers to danger. They had faced down enemy soldiers and survived the brutality of war. But even they must have found the task of capturing the wild man to be a daunting and dangerous endeavor. The silence of the historical record on this matter suggests that the struggle was fierce, possibly chaotic, and fraught with peril as they sought to contain a being that seemed more beast than man. With a mix of fear and determination, they eventually managed to bind the wild man and lift him into the boat, their minds racing with questions. What was this creature? Was he truly human, or something else entirely? News of the capture spread quickly, reaching as far as Columbus, Georgia. The reports were consistent: a wild man, covered in hair and behaving in a manner that could only be described as insane, had been taken from the depths of Ocheesee Pond. He had no clothes, no possessions, nothing to suggest he was anything other than a creature of the wild. But as the men who captured him looked closer, they realized that beneath the layers of hair and grime was a man, possibly an escapee from an asylum, though no one could say for sure. In the days that followed, the wild man was taken to Tallahassee, where officials attempted to identify him. No asylum in Florida or any neighboring state reported a missing inmate that matched his description. The mystery only deepened as the days turned into weeks. Who was he? How had he survived in the swamp for so long? The wild man of Ocheesee Pond, as he came to be known, was an enigma, a living reminder that some mysteries were not meant to be solved. The final mention of the wild man in the historical record is brief and unsatisfying. He was reportedly sent back to Chattahoochee, but from there his fate remains unknown. Did he die in the asylum, his story fading into obscurity, or did he escape once again, returning to the swamp that had become his home? The people of Jackson County would never know for sure. The wild man vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving behind a legacy of fear and fascination that lingers to this day. Ocheesee Pond remains a place of haunting beauty, a landscape seemingly untouched by time. Those who visit often speak of the eerie stillness that pervades the swamp, the feeling that something or someone is watching from the shadows. The story of the wild man of Ocheesee Pond has become a part of local folklore, a tale told around campfires and passed down through generations. Yet, for all the speculation, the truth remains as murky as the waters of the pond itself. The swamps of Florida have long held their secrets, but none as eerie or elusive as the wild man of Ocheesee Pond. Even now, the truth behind this enigmatic figure is obscured by the fog of time and the murmur of the cypress trees. Was he a lost soul driven mad by isolation, or something altogether different, something that defies our understanding? Though captured, his story has faded into obscurity, lingering only in the haunting remnants of his cries. In the darkness of the night, these remnants remind us that some mysteries may never be fully unraveled. If you have any insights into the wild man's fate, whether through old tales, letters, or artifacts, please reach out to us so we can shed light on these hidden truths. Thank you for tuning in to Remote Cabin Radio, where history and mystery come alive.